He never expected my calm revenge to change his entire life. Part 1. The day I stopped crying. The most dangerous revenge is the one no one sees coming. The day my husband left me, there wasn't a single trace of regret on his face. Only pride. He placed my suitcase outside the front door, looked me straight in the eyes, and said with a smirk, "You won't last a month without me." I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even look at the woman standing behind him, the woman he had chosen over me. I simply picked up my suitcase, turned around, and walked away. Everyone thought that was the end of my story. They were wrong. That was the day my real life began. My name is Sophia. 6 years ago, if someone had asked me who I trusted most in the world, I would have answered without hesitation. Ryan, my husband, my best friend, my partner in every dream I had. We met in a small coffee shop downtown. He wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. He was simply kind. At least, that's what I believed. We spent hours talking about the future. He wanted to build a business. I wanted to build a life with someone who believed in me. It felt like destiny. A year later, we got married. Money was tight. Some months we barely had enough to pay rent. But we never stopped believing in each other. Or at least, I never stopped believing in him. Together, we launched a small online business. I handled the operations, customer service, marketing, accounting. Ryan loved introducing himself as the company's founder. I didn't mind. I never cared who received the credit. I only cared that we were building something together. The company slowly grew. Our tiny apartment became a beautiful house. The old car was replaced with a new one. For the first time, life finally felt perfect. Until Ryan began to change. He started coming home late. Every night there was another important meeting. His phone was always face down. He smiled at messages, then quickly locked the screen whenever I walked into the room. Whenever I asked if everything was okay, he laughed. "Sophia, you worry too much." And every single time, I believed him. Because trust doesn't disappear overnight. It fades quietly, one lie at a time. One Tuesday evening, Ryan went upstairs to take a shower. His phone was lying on the kitchen counter. I had never gone through his phone before. Not once in 6 years. I had no reason to. Then, the screen lit up. A message appeared. "I already miss you, Red Heart." My heart skipped a beat. Before I could process it, another message arrived. "When are you finally telling her the truth?" Her. Who was her? I already knew the answer. Me. Ryan walked back into the kitchen, drying his hair with a towel. The moment he saw his phone, his smile disappeared. Only for a second. Then it came back. "Who was texting?" I asked casually. He picked up the phone without letting me see the screen. "Oh, just a client." He lied so naturally. It sounded rehearsed. For the first time in our marriage, I looked into his eyes and saw a stranger. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every memory suddenly felt different. Every business trip, every late meeting, every excuse. Were they all lies? The next morning, we drove to the office together. We owned the company equally. At least, that's what I believed. As soon as we arrived, Ryan's assistant, Emma, smiled at him in a way I had never noticed before. Not professional, not friendly, personal, too personal. When she saw me looking, she immediately looked away. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Around lunchtime, Ryan grabbed his jacket. "I've got an important meeting across town." "Okay," I replied. Ironically, I had a meeting in the same area. When I arrived, Ryan wasn't at the office building he had mentioned. Instead, I noticed his car parked outside a quiet restaurant. Curious, I looked through the window. There he was, sitting across from Emma, laughing, holding her hand across the table, like they didn't have a single care in the world. I felt my heart shatter, but I didn't walk inside. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I quietly took one photograph. Then I walked back to my car, because in that exact moment, I made a decision. The louder the betrayal, the quieter my revenge would be. For the next 3 weeks, I acted exactly the same. I smiled, cooked dinner, asked about his day, pretended everything was normal. Meanwhile, I was collecting the truth. Bank statements, emails, business records, phone bills, every small detail. Ryan thought I knew nothing. That confidence, would become his greatest mistake. One Friday evening, Ryan walked into my home office carrying a folder. "Sophia, I need your signature." "What is it?" "Just paperwork for the company." He placed the folder on my desk. I smiled. "Of course." The smile on his face grew wider. He thought I trusted him blindly. Just like always. I opened the folder. The first few pages looked ordinary. Then, everything changed. Buried halfway through the documents was a legal agreement. It transferred every one of my company's shares into Ryan's name. Without those shares, I would own nothing. I slowly looked up. Ryan was watching me confidently. He had no idea I had actually read the contract. I closed the folder, smiled warmly, and said, "I'll sign it first thing tomorrow morning." Relief washed over his face. He kissed my forehead. "You're amazing." I smiled back. But inside, a completely different plan had already begun. That same night, after Ryan fell asleep, I picked up my phone and made one call, a call that would change his entire life forever. That night, Ryan fell asleep within minutes. I lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling. For 6 years, I had trusted the man sleeping next to me more than I trusted myself. Now I couldn't even recognize him. Slowly, I slipped out of bed. I walked into my home office, closed the door, and picked up my phone. The number I dialed belonged to someone I hadn't spoken to in almost 3 years. David Collins, the best corporate lawyer in the city. He answered after the second ring. "Sophia." His voice sounded surprised. "It's been a long time." "It has." There was a brief silence before he asked, "What happened?" I looked at the folder Ryan had handed me. "I need your help." And I needed to stay completely confidential. David's tone immediately changed. "Come to my office first thing tomorrow morning. Don't sign anything." "I won't." The next morning, I acted as if nothing had happened. I made Ryan breakfast, poured him his favorite coffee, even kissed him goodbye before he left for work. He smiled. "Don't forget to sign those papers." "I won't." As soon as his car disappeared down the street, I grabbed the folder and drove straight to David's office. He spent nearly an hour reading every page. Finally, he closed the file and looked at me. "Sophia, you were one signature away from losing everything." My stomach tightened. "It really transfers all my shares." He nodded. "And not just your shares. He also becomes the sole owner of every patent, client contract, and future profit." I couldn't believe it. Ryan hadn't just planned to leave me. He planned to erase me. "Can we stop this?" I asked. David smiled slightly. "Oh, we can do much more than stop it." He turned his computer screen toward me. "I did a little research before you arrived." "What did you find?" "Ryan has been hiding money." My heart skipped a beat. "How much?" David clicked another document. "Over $2 million. I stared at the screen. $2 million. Hidden in offshore accounts. Money that had come directly from our company. Money I had worked years to earn. "He planned this for a long time," David said quietly. I nodded. "I know." Over the next few days, David and his team uncovered even more. Fake invoices, secret bank transfers, personal expenses disguised as business costs. Everything pointed to one conclusion. Ryan hadn't only betrayed our marriage, he had betrayed our company. Every new document made me angrier. Everything pointed to one conclusion. Ryan hadn't only betrayed our marriage, he had betrayed our company. Every new document made me angrier. But I never let Ryan see it. At home, I smiled. At work, I congratulated him on new clients. I even laughed at his jokes. The more comfortable he became, the more careless he got. One afternoon, Emma walked into Ryan's office. She forgot to close the door. From my office across the hallway, I could hear their voices. Ryan laughed. "Sophia still has no idea." Emma smiled. "She's too trusting." Ryan shook his head. "She'll sign everything this Friday. And after that, we're free." I quietly picked up my phone and pressed record. Every word, every laugh, every lie was captured forever. That evening, Ryan came home carrying flowers. I thought we should have dinner together. I almost laughed. The guilt was finally catching up with him. During dinner, he reached across the table and held my hand. "I've been thinking, we should take a vacation after everything is finalized." I looked into his eyes. What exactly is being finalized? For the first time, he hesitated, then smiled. You'll see. Oh, I already knew. Friday morning arrived. Ryan placed the contract in front of me. His excitement was impossible to hide. This is the last document. After today, our future begins. He wasn't lying. A future was about to begin. Just not the one he imagined. I uncapped the pen, looked down at the signature line, then smiled. Before I sign, I have one small surprise. Ryan looked confused. What surprise? The office door opened. David walked in. Behind him were two forensic accountants, a court-appointed financial investigator, and 3 officers from the Financial Crimes Division. Ryan's smile disappeared instantly. What's going on? David calmly placed another folder on the table. This meeting is now being officially recorded. Ryan stood up. There must be some mistake. David looked him straight in the eyes. No, Mr. Carter. The only mistake was believing Sophia would never read the contract. The room fell silent. Ryan slowly turned toward me. His face had gone completely pale. You knew. I looked at him with the same calm expression I had worn for weeks. Then I said the words he would never forget. I knew the moment you stopped respecting me. Ryan took a step backward. Emma, standing outside the glass office, watched in horror. The investigators opened the evidence folders. Bank records, wire transfers, audio recordings, hidden accounts. Every secret Ryan believed was buried, was now lying on the conference table. And this was only the beginning. The conference room fell into complete silence. Ryan stared at the evidence spread across the table. Bank statements, secret accounts, audio recordings, signed contracts. For the first time since I had known him, he looked afraid. Real fear. Not the kind you fake to win an argument. The kind that appears when you realize there is no escape. This is ridiculous, Ryan finally said. There has to be some misunderstanding. David calmly slid another file across the table. There isn't. Ryan didn't open it. He already knew what was inside. The forensic accountant spoke first. We've tracked over $2 million that were transferred from company accounts into shell companies under your control. Ryan swallowed hard. I can explain. David smiled politely. Please do. Ryan looked around the room, then at me. Sophia, tell them this is a mistake. His voice sounded desperate, almost unfamiliar. I folded my hands on the table. I've spent 6 years believing your explanations. I'm done listening. Just then, the conference room door opened. Emma walked in. The moment she saw the investigators, she froze. Ryan, what is this? Ryan quickly shook his head. Don't say anything. Too late. One of the investigators looked at her. Emma Brooks. She nodded nervously. We'll need to speak with you as well. Her face turned pale. I didn't do anything. David looked directly at her. Then you have nothing to worry about. Ryan closed his eyes. He knew everything was falling apart. Within an hour, the company's financial servers were secured. Ryan's access cards were disabled. His office was sealed. Employees gathered outside the conference room, whispering among themselves. No one could believe what they were seeing. The man everyone admired was being investigated for corporate fraud. As Ryan was escorted out of the building, he stopped in front of me. You planned this. I looked at him calmly. No. You planned it. I simply refused to become your victim. That evening, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Friends, business partners, reporters, everyone wanted to know what had happened. I ignored every call. Instead, I drove to the beach, the same beach where Ryan had proposed to me 6 years earlier. I stood there watching the waves. Strangely, I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt free. 4 weeks, revenge had been my motivation. But now I realized something. Justice felt very different from revenge. Justice gave you peace. Revenge never could. The next morning, David called. We found something. What is it? It's not about the money. My heartbeat quickened. Then what? He hesitated. Sophia, I think Ryan married you because of your company. I frowned. That doesn't make sense. We started the business together. Did you? His question caught me off guard. I'll explain when you get here. An hour later, I was sitting in David's office. He handed me an old file. This was buried in the original incorporation records. I opened it. The documents were dated almost 7 years earlier, 1 year before Ryan and I got married. At the top of the first page was my name, only my name. I looked up the original business plan. I kept reading. Every idea, every product, every marketing strategy, every financial projection, every single page had been written by me. Ryan's name didn't appear anywhere. My heart sank. I don't understand. David leaned back in his chair. You built the company. He simply convinced you that it was both of yours. I couldn't speak. Memories flooded back. The late nights, the business model, the logo, the website, the client presentations. I had done almost everything. Ryan had simply stood beside me, taking credit. For years, I had believed we were building a dream together. Now I realized he had been building his future on my work. As I was leaving David's office, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered, "Hello." For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then a woman's voice quietly said, "You don't know me, but I know Ryan." My heart skipped a beat. Who is this? My name is Claire. I was engaged to Ryan before he met you. Everything around me seemed to stop. What? She took a deep breath. And you're not the first woman whose life he tried to steal. The line went silent. I gripped the phone tighter. What do you mean? Claire whispered 6 words that sent a chill down my spine. You're only his latest victim. Before I could ask another question, she hung up. I stared at the phone. If Claire was telling the truth, then Ryan hadn't just betrayed me. He had done this before. And somewhere, there were others who had lost everything. Just like I almost had that I wasn't his first victim. I couldn't stop thinking about Claire's words. You're only his latest victim. They echoed in my mind all night. Was Ryan really capable of doing something like this more than once? Or was Claire simply trying to hurt him? There was only one way to find out. The next morning, I called the number she had used. She answered immediately. I was wondering when you'd call. Can we meet? There was a brief pause. Yes, but not here. An hour later, I walked into a quiet cafe on the edge of the city. A woman in her early 40s stood up as I entered. She smiled politely. You must be Sophia. You must be Claire. She nodded. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then, she slid an old photograph across the table. I picked it up. My heart stopped. It was Ryan, standing beside Claire. He was holding an engagement ring. The date on the back of the photo was 8 years ago. 1 year before I met him. I loved him, Claire said quietly. I thought he loved me too. I looked at her. What happened? She laughed bitterly. The same thing that almost happened to you. He told me we should build a business together. He convinced me to trust him with everything. My savings, my ideas, my future. She looked out the window. One morning, he disappeared, along with every dollar I had. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Didn't you go to the police? I did, but he had covered every trail. There wasn't enough evidence. She smiled sadly. So everyone assumed I was lying. I slowly reached across the table and took her hand. I'm sorry. She shook her head. No, I'm sorry. If I had found him sooner, maybe you wouldn't have suffered. Claire reached into her bag. She placed another folder in front of me. I've been collecting information about Ryan for years. Inside were dozens of documents, old lawsuits, business registrations, bank records, photographs. Every page told the same story. Different city, different woman, different business, same ending. Ryan would earn their trust, help them build something successful, take control of the finances, then disappear, leaving them with nothing. I counted 6 names. I was number 7. Tears filled my eyes, not because of what Ryan had done to me, because of how many lives he had destroyed. Claire pointed to the final page. There's someone else you need to meet. Who? The first woman. I frowned. You mean, the very first person Ryan ever betrayed? She nodded. Her name is Evelyn, and she knows something none of us do. That afternoon, Claire and I drove 3 hours to a small coastal town. Evelyn lived in a tiny house overlooking the ocean. She opened the door before we even knocked. I've been expecting you. She looked at me for a long moment, then smiled gently. So, You're the woman who finally stopped him. I wasn't sure how to answer. I hope so. She invited us inside. The walls were covered with paintings, beautiful landscapes, peaceful sunsets. It was hard to believe this calm woman had once survived the same nightmare. Over tea, Evelyn quietly told her story. Ryan had been only 24 when they met. Charming, ambitious, funny, exactly the man I remembered. He wasn't always this way, she said. What changed? She sighed. His father. My heart skipped a beat. His father. She nodded. Ryan's father believed only one thing mattered. Money. He raised Ryan to see people as opportunities, not friends, not partners, not family, opportunities. For the first time, I almost felt sorry for Ryan. Almost. Before we left, Evelyn handed me an old leather notebook. It belonged to Ryan. Why do you have it? He left it behind the day he disappeared. I carefully opened it. Most pages contained business ideas. Then I reached the last section. The handwriting suddenly changed. It wasn't business notes anymore. It was Ryan's personal journal. One sentence caught my attention immediately. If I ever lose Sophia, I'll lose the only person who truly believed in me. I stared at the page, confused. If Ryan really felt that way, why betray me? I turned another page. The answer was waiting. Dad says love makes people weak. He says success always comes first. I slowly closed the notebook. For the first time, I realized something painful. Ryan hadn't been born a monster. He had become one. That didn't excuse his choices, but it explained them. As Claire started the car, my phone rang. It was David. Sophia. His voice sounded unusually serious. We've got a problem. What happened? Ryan has disappeared. I frowned. What do you mean? He skipped his court hearing this morning. They can't find him. Before I could respond, David added one more sentence. And before he vanished, he emptied another hidden bank account. My heart began racing. How much? David took a deep breath. $5 million. I looked out at the endless ocean. Ryan wasn't running away. He was planning something. And somehow, I knew this story was far from over. He was running toward something, not away. Ryan was gone. No one knew where. The police searched his apartment, his office, even the vacation house he secretly owned. Nothing. It was as if he had vanished overnight. The news spread quickly. Business channels called him a fugitive. Social media exploded with rumors. Some people believed he had left the country. Others thought he had changed his identity. I stayed silent, because something didn't feel right. Ryan had never been the kind of man who ran without a plan. If he disappeared, it was because he was chasing something bigger. The next morning, David arrived at my office carrying another file. I think I know where he went. I looked up. How? David placed a world map on my desk. Then he pointed to 3 cities. Singapore, Dubai, London. These are the last 3 places where money was transferred from his hidden accounts. I frowned. Can we track the final destination? David nodded. Almost. He handed me a printed bank statement. One company name appeared again and again. Nova Horizon Ventures. I've never heard of them. Neither had I, David replied. But according to the records, they're raising millions from private investors. My stomach tightened. Ryan wasn't hiding. He was preparing for another deal. Another company. Another victim. That evening, I couldn't stop thinking about the women Ryan had already destroyed. Claire, Evelyn, and the others whose names were buried in old court files. How many more lives would he ruin if no one stopped him? For the first time, this wasn't about my revenge anymore. It was about preventing someone else from living my nightmare. I picked up my phone, called Claire, then Evelyn. I need your help. Neither of them hesitated. We're in. 3 days later, the 3 of us sat around a conference table. David projected information onto a large screen. Nova Horizon is hosting an international investment summit next week. He clicked to the next slide. The keynote speaker, Ryan Carter. Claire shook her head in disbelief. He's actually trying to start over. David smiled. No, he's trying to repeat the same scam. On the screen appeared a promotional photo. Ryan stood on a stage wearing an expensive suit, smiling confidently. The headline beneath his picture read, Building Trust, Creating the Future. I stared at the words. Trust. The one thing he had never truly understood. Claire quietly whispered, "How many people are going to believe him?" I looked at the screen. Not if we get there first. The summit was being held at one of the city's largest luxury hotels. Hundreds of investors from around the world were expected to attend. David looked at me. "If we're going to expose him, we need undeniable proof." I smiled. "I think I know where to find it." That night, I drove to the storage unit Ryan had rented years ago. During the investigation, police had searched it once. They found nothing unusual. But I remembered something. Ryan was obsessed with keeping backups. Every contract, every email, every file. He never trusted technology alone. If there was evidence, it would be there, hidden somewhere everyone else had overlooked. The storage unit looked exactly the same. Old furniture, boxes, dust. For nearly 2 hours, I searched everything. Nothing. Just as I was about to leave, I noticed an old wooden desk. One drawer wouldn't open completely. Something was blocking it. I reached inside. My fingers touched a small metal switch. Click! A hidden compartment slid open. Inside was a black hard drive and a sealed envelope. Across the front, Ryan had written only 3 words. "In case everything fails." My heart started pounding. Back at David's office, our computer expert connected the hard drive. Dozens of folders appeared. Videos, contracts, financial records, fake identities, secret recordings. Everything. Ryan had documented every scheme, every stolen business, every hidden account, every victim. David stared at the screen in disbelief. This isn't just fraud. It's an entire criminal operation. Then, one final folder appeared. Its title made my blood run cold. Project Sophia. The room fell silent. Claire slowly looked at me. "What is that?" My hands trembled as I clicked the folder. Inside were years of files, photos of me, business reports, my social media posts, copies of my emails, even pictures taken before Ryan and I had ever met. I whispered, "No." David's face turned pale. "He didn't choose you by accident. He studied you. For years. Long before our first date. Long before he said, 'I love you.' Everything had been planned. Everything. Except one thing. He never planned for me to fight back. At that moment, I wasn't just determined to expose Ryan. I was determined to make sure he could never destroy another life again." But outside David's office, a black SUV slowly pulled into the parking lot. 3 men stepped out. None of us noticed. Not until the office lights suddenly went out. They came for the evidence. The office lights went out. Everything around us disappeared into darkness. For 1 second, no one moved. Then the emergency lights flickered on. A dim red glow filled the room. David looked toward the window. "They're here." "Who?" Before he could answer, a loud crash echoed through the hallway. Someone had forced the front door open. Claire grabbed my arm. "Sophia, call the police." I reached for my phone. No signal. David frowned. "They're using a signal jammer." My heart began pounding. Whoever these people were, they had planned this carefully. Another loud bang. Closer this time. Heavy footsteps echoed outside the conference room. David quickly unplugged the hard drive. He handed it to me. "Take this." "What about you?" "I'll buy you time." "No. You have to leave." Before I could argue, the conference room door burst open. 3 men wearing black jackets rushed inside. The tallest one looked directly at me. "We're not here for you. We're here for the drive." David stepped in front of us. "You have a warrant?" The man laughed. "We don't need one." He took another step forward. "Give us the evidence." Claire whispered, "Don't do it." The man smiled coldly. "You have 10 seconds. I looked at the hard drive in my hand. Everything was inside it. Every victim. Every fake company. Every stolen dollar. If they got it, Ryan would walk free. I slowly raised the drive. The men relaxed. They thought I was giving up. Instead, I threw it across the room. It landed beneath a heavy filing cabinet. One of the men lunged toward it. At that exact moment, the building's fire alarm exploded into life. Loud sirens echoed through every floor. Bright emergency lights flashed everywhere. The attackers looked confused. David smiled. "I triggered the alarm 5 minutes ago." Employees poured into the hallways. Security guards rushed toward the office. The three men realized they had lost their advantage. "Move!" their leader shouted. Within seconds, they disappeared into the crowd. By the time the police arrived, they were gone. An hour later, the officers searched the building. No arrests, no names, no fingerprints, almost as if the men had never existed. One detective looked at me. "Do you know who sent them?" I nodded slowly. "I have a good idea." The next morning, news of the attempted break-in spread quickly. Reporters gathered outside our office. Everyone wanted answers. David called an emergency meeting. "They weren't professional thieves." "What do you mean?" Claire asked. "They knew exactly what they wanted. The hard drive." He looked at me. "Ryan is scared." I frowned. "Scared?" David nodded. For the first time in his life, he knows someone has proof. Later that afternoon, our computer expert finally finished copying every file from the drive. There were thousands of documents, hundreds of recordings. Then, he stopped. "Sophia, you need to see this." A hidden folder had appeared. Its name was simple. Private. Inside, there was only one video, recorded just 2 weeks earlier. Ryan looked directly into the camera. His face was serious. No smile. No confidence. "If you're watching this, it means everything has gone wrong." I stared at the screen. Ryan continued. "I know Sophia found the truth. I know she'll come after me." He paused, then said something I never expected. "But none of this started with me." The room fell silent. "There are people far more powerful than I am. I worked for them. They taught me everything. They chose my targets. They funded every company." My heart skipped a beat. What? Ryan wasn't acting alone. David leaned closer to the screen. Ryan continued speaking. "They call themselves the Circle. They don't steal businesses. They steal people. They find talented entrepreneurs. They earn their trust. They take everything. And if anyone fights back, they disappear." Claire covered her mouth. "This can't be real." Ryan looked directly into the camera. "If anything happens to me, don't look for revenge. Run." The video ended. Nobody spoke. For almost a full minute. Finally, David broke the silence. "If this is true, we're dealing with something much bigger than Ryan." I looked down at the hard drive. This had started as a story about a cheating husband. Now, it had become something far more dangerous. Just then, my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. It contained only one sentence. "Welcome to the Circle, Sophia." Beneath the message was a photograph. A picture taken just moments ago. Outside my office, someone had been watching us. The entire time, the Circle already knew my name. I couldn't take my eyes off the photograph. It had been taken less than 5 minutes earlier. I was standing beside the office window. David was talking on the phone. Claire was sitting across the table. Someone had been watching us, close enough to capture every detail, without any of us noticing. A chill ran down my spine. "They're here," I whispered. David took the phone from my hand. His expression changed immediately. "This wasn't sent to scare you." "What do you mean?" "It was sent to prove they can reach you anytime they want." The police traced the message. Nothing. The phone number didn't exist. The image had been routed through servers in 3 different countries. Whoever the Circle was, they knew exactly how to stay invisible. That night, I didn't go home. David booked rooms at a secure hotel under different names. Claire stayed in the room next to mine. For the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't felt since Ryan betrayed me. Fear. Real fear. At 2 o'clock in the morning, someone knocked on my hotel door. 3 soft knocks. I froze. No one knew where we were staying. I slowly walked toward the door. "Who is it?" A calm voice answered. "Room service." I hadn't ordered anything. I quietly stepped back and called David. "Someone's outside my room." "Don't open the door," he said immediately. "I'm coming." Seconds later, the footsteps outside disappeared. When David arrived, the hallway was empty. Only a small black envelope lay on the floor. Across the front, in silver ink, were 2 words. "For Sophia." Inside was a single chess piece. A white queen. Nothing else. Claire frowned. "What does it mean?" David looked thoughtful. "In chess, the queen is the most powerful piece." I turned the piece over. Something was engraved on the bottom. "Every move has already been planned." I suddenly remembered Ryan's hidden folder. Project Sophia. Had they really planned my life years before I ever met him? The next morning, our computer expert called. I found something else on the hard drive. What? There was a hidden encryption key. He unlocked another folder. Its title appeared on the screen. Circle recruitment files. Hundreds of names filled the database. Business owners, lawyers, bankers, investors. Every person had been given a score. Trustworthy, influential, easy to manipulate. Then, I saw my own profile. Sophia Bennett. Age, 29. Leadership rating, exceptional. Integrity score, 98%. Target status, high priority. I felt sick. I hadn't been chosen because I was wealthy. I had been chosen because I was honest. The circle didn't hunt weak people. They hunted good people. David scrolled further. One document was marked. Recommended recruit, Ryan Carter. The date shocked me. It was nearly 10 years old. Long before Ryan met me. Long before our business. Long before our marriage. Ryan hadn't created the plan. He had been recruited into it. Claire whispered. So he really was telling the truth. David nodded slowly. At least about this part. Another file opened automatically. A photograph appeared. My heart nearly stopped. The man standing beside the circle's founder was someone I knew. Very well. David noticed my expression. Sophia. I couldn't speak. Claire looked at the screen. Do you know him? I nodded, barely able to breathe. It can't be. The man wasn't Ryan. It wasn't David. It wasn't anyone from our company. It was my uncle, Thomas, the man who had helped raise me after my father died, the man who attended every birthday, every graduation, the man who always called me his favorite niece. He had been part of the circle for years. No, I whispered. There has to be a mistake. David zoomed in on the image. There was no mistake. Thomas was shaking hands with the organization's founder. Both of them were smiling. The date beneath the photograph was almost 12 years old. Claire looked at me carefully. Did your uncle introduce you to Ryan? I closed my eyes. The memory hit me instantly. A charity fundraiser. 10 years ago. Thomas had smiled and said, Sophia, there's someone I'd like you to meet. Ryan. It wasn't fate. It wasn't coincidence. It had been arranged from the very beginning. I sat down, unable to process what I had just learned. Every important moment in my life suddenly looked different. Meeting Ryan, starting the company, getting married. None of it had happened by accident. Someone had been moving the pieces, like a chess game, and I had never even known I was playing. Just then, David's phone rang. He answered. His face turned pale. What? He looked at me. They've arrested Ryan. I frowned. Isn't that good? David slowly shook his head. No, because Ryan isn't asking for a lawyer. He's asking for you. Before I could respond, David added one final sentence. And he says, tell Sophia the only way to destroy the circle is hidden inside my father's vault. The room fell silent. Ryan had one final secret, and somehow, he had saved it for me, the truth Ryan could never tell me. I never imagined I would willingly visit Ryan again. Not after everything he had done. Not after every lie, every betrayal, every sleepless night. Yet there I was, walking through the cold halls of the county detention center. A correctional officer stopped outside a small interview room. He's waiting. I took a deep breath and walked inside. Ryan was sitting alone. The expensive suits were gone. The confident smile had disappeared. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. For the first time since I had met him, he looked like a man carrying the weight of his own choices. When he saw me, he slowly stood. I wasn't sure you'd come. I remained standing. You have 5 minutes. He gave a sad smile. I probably deserve less. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, Ryan broke the silence. I know saying I'm sorry changes nothing. You're right. It doesn't. He nodded. I betrayed the only person who ever truly loved me. I looked at him calmly. So why did you do it? Ryan lowered his eyes. Because I was raised to believe that love was always temporary, but power lasted forever. He leaned back in his chair. My father wasn't just a businessman. He was one of the circle's founders. My heart skipped a beat. I grew up watching people lose everything. Businesses, families, dreams. I thought that was normal. He looked directly at me. Until I met you. You were different. You trusted people. You celebrated other people's success. You believed honesty was stronger than fear. He laughed bitterly. I thought you were weak. But after we got married, I realized you were the strongest person I'd ever known. I frowned. If that's true, why continue? Ryan closed his eyes. Because by then, I was already trapped. He reached into his prison uniform pocket. The guard immediately stepped forward. It's okay, Ryan said. He placed a small brass key on the table. My father's vault. I stared at it. This is what they're really afraid of. What's inside? Ryan looked at me with complete seriousness. The names. What names? Every member of the circle. Every investor. Every recruiter. Every hidden account. Everyone who spent decades destroying innocent lives. If that vault is opened, the circle ends. I slowly picked up the key. Why didn't you do it yourself? Ryan smiled sadly. Because they were watching me. If I tried, I'd never make it. He looked down at his hands. But they never expected you. Before I could ask another question, the prison alarm suddenly echoed through the building. Red lights flashed across the hallway. The guards rushed outside. One officer shouted, "Lock down!" Another yelled, "Everyone stay where you are!" Ryan's expression changed instantly. They're here. Who? The circle. A loud explosion shook the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. The guards drew their weapons. Ryan looked directly into my eyes. Listen carefully. You have to leave. What about you? They're not here for me. They're here for the key. The interview room door burst open. But it wasn't an attacker. It was David, breathing heavily. Sophia, we have to go. What happened? They hacked the prison security system. They're creating a diversion. Ryan quickly grabbed my wrist. Promise me something. I hesitated. What? No matter what you discover inside that vault, don't let revenge become your reason. Let the truth be your reason. For the first time in months, I saw the man I thought I had married. Not the liar, not the manipulator. Just a broken man, who finally understood what he had destroyed. David pulled me toward the exit. As we reached the hallway, a masked figure appeared at the far end. He wasn't running. He wasn't shouting. He simply stood there, watching us. Then he slowly raised one gloved hand and pointed directly at me. A calm voice echoed through the corridor. The key belongs to us. David whispered. Run! We sprinted through the emergency exit. Behind us, the prison alarms continued to scream. An hour later, we reached a secure location. I placed the brass key on the table. David looked at it silently. So, where's the vault? I turned the key over. Tiny letters were engraved into the metal. Locker 217. First National Trust. I frowned. That's downtown. David slowly shook his head. No, it used to be. I looked up. What do you mean? He opened his laptop. The bank closed 6 years ago. My heart sank. So the vault is gone. David clicked another file. No, the bank didn't close. It relocated. He turned the screen toward me. The new address appeared. Then both of us froze. The vault wasn't hidden in another city. It wasn't hidden in another country. It was hidden beneath the headquarters of a circle itself. The only place no one would ever think to search. I looked at the brass key in my hand, then at the address. To expose the circle, we would have to walk straight into its heart, and somehow walk back out alive. Inside the vault, everything changed. I didn't sleep that night. The brass key never left my hand. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Ryan's final words. Let the truth be your reason. 4 months, I had believed my journey was about revenge. Now, it had become something much bigger. If the circle survived, there would always be another Sophia, another Claire, another Evelyn, another innocent life destroyed. That had to end. At sunrise, David walked into the room carrying a blueprint. He spread it across the table. The circle's headquarters. It looked like an ordinary financial consulting company. Glass walls, luxury offices, private conference rooms. Nothing unusual, until he pointed beneath the building. There, a hidden underground level. No public records mention it. No employee has access. Only senior members. Claire looked at the map. So how do we get in? David smiled. We don't. We're already invited. He placed 3 envelopes on the table. Each contained a VIP invitation. Annual Leadership Summit, hosted by the Circle Foundation. I frowned. How did you get these? David gave a small smile. I've been preparing for this day longer than you think. For a moment, I looked at him differently. There was something in his voice, something he wasn't telling me, but there wasn't time to ask. That evening, we arrived at the headquarters. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Business leaders, politicians, investors, people smiling for cameras. No one would ever imagine what was hidden beneath their feet. I adjusted my black evening dress. Claire whispered, "Ready." I looked at the building. No, but let's finish this. Inside, everything looked perfect. Crystal chandeliers, soft music, champagne, expensive suits, polite conversations. It felt less like a criminal organization and more like a celebration of success, which made it even more terrifying. Because evil rarely announces itself. Sometimes, it wears a smile. An older man stepped onto the stage. The room immediately fell silent. He wasn't introduced by name. He didn't need to be. Everyone stood and applauded. David leaned toward me. That's him. The founder. The man who had built the circle. The man responsible for decades of betrayal. He smiled at the crowd. Tonight, we celebrate another year of growth. The audience applauded again. I felt sick. While everyone watched the speech, David quietly guided Claire and me toward a restricted hallway. The brass key opened the first security door, then another, then a third. Finally, we reached an old steel elevator. There were no buttons, only a keyhole. I inserted the brass key. The elevator began moving downward, deep beneath the building. No one spoke. The silence felt endless. The doors opened. A long corridor stretched before us. At the end, a massive steel vault. Its door stood nearly 10 feet high. The same number was engraved across the front. 217. Ryan had told the truth. David looked at me. This is your decision. I stepped forward, placed the brass key into the lock, turned it slowly. A deep metallic sound echoed through the hallway. The vault door began to open. Inside, there wasn't gold, no piles of cash, no priceless jewelry. Instead, thousands of files, shelves filled with documents, hard drives, photographs, passports, every victim, every secret, every member, everything. Claire whispered, "My God!" David looked around in disbelief. This could destroy them forever. Then I noticed something different. A small wooden box, sitting alone on a table. My name was written across the lid. Sophia Bennett. My hands began shaking. I opened it. Inside was a single letter, written in Ryan's handwriting. Sophia, if you've opened this box, it means you were stronger than I ever deserved. There is one final truth I never had the courage to tell you. I didn't marry you because the circle ordered me to. At first, yes, I approached you because you were a target, but somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you. Real love. And that was the one mistake the circle never forgave. A tear rolled down my cheek. I kept reading. I tried to leave. They threatened everyone I cared about, including you. Every terrible choice I made after that was still my responsibility. I don't ask for forgiveness. I only ask that you finish what I couldn't. I slowly folded the letter. For the first time, I believed every word. Not because Ryan deserved trust, but because his actions finally matched his confession. He had handed me the key, knowing it would destroy everything he had ever built, including himself. Suddenly, the lights inside the vault went out. Emergency lights flashed red. A loud voice echoed through hidden speakers. Vault breach detected. Security teams responding. David looked toward the corridor. They know we're here. Heavy footsteps echoed outside. Dozens of them. Claire grabbed my arm. We don't have time to copy everything. I looked around the vault. There were thousands of files. Years of evidence. Far too much to carry. Then David smiled. Who said anything about carrying it? He reached into his bag, pulled out a small encrypted device, connected it to the vault's central server. The screen lit up, uploading evidence. 1%, 4%, 9%. Outside, the sound of approaching guards grew louder. David looked at the screen. Come on. 18%. 27%. The first voices could now be heard outside the vault door. Open it. Now. Claire whispered. They're almost here. The upload reached 51%. Then, the steel vault door began to move. Someone was opening it from the outside. I held my breath. The next few seconds would decide everything. My revenge changed everything. The vault door began to open. Metal scraped against metal. The sound echoed through the underground corridor. David looked at the upload screen. 62%. Just a little longer, he whispered. Claire stood beside the entrance, her hands trembling. They're coming. Heavy footsteps grew louder. Then, the vault door swung open. 5 armed security officers rushed inside. Behind them walked the founder, the man who had spent decades hiding behind expensive suits, powerful friends, and stolen lives. He looked at me and smiled. So, you're Sophia. I expected anger, threats, violence. Instead, he spoke with complete calm. I've heard a great deal about you. I didn't answer. He slowly walked closer. You've cost us millions. You've destroyed years of careful planning. David stepped in front of me. It's over. The founder chuckled. You still think this is about money? He looked around the vault. No. This has always been about control. He pointed toward the upload screen. 71%. You really believe those files will destroy us? I finally spoke. No. They won't destroy you. They'll expose you. His smile faded. For the first time, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. People like him weren't afraid of losing wealth. They were afraid of losing secrecy. The founder slowly removed his watch, placed it on the table. You remind me of your father. I froze. My father. He nodded. He was offered a place in the circle. He refused. My heart skipped a beat. You knew him. I knew everyone worth knowing. He chose honesty, and honesty made him dangerous. Claire looked shocked. What did you do to him? The founder looked away. We destroyed his business. We ruined his reputation. But we never broke him. Then he looked back at me. Neither will we break you. David glanced at the upload. 84%. Almost there. The founder noticed it too. He sighed. I warned Ryan not to trust his emotions. He failed. He chose love. And because of that, he betrayed us. For the first time, there was disappointment in his voice. Not hatred. Disappointment. As if human feelings were simply bad business decisions. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed somewhere above us. The entire building shook. Emergency alarms filled the air. One of the security officers spoke into his radio. His face turned pale. Sir! The police! They're everywhere! The founder looked confused. Impossible! David smiled. I never came here to steal evidence. I came here to delay you. He pointed at the screen. 100%. Upload complete. A notification appeared. Evidence successfully sent. Recipients. Federal Financial Crimes Division. International Fraud Task Force. Major news networks. Multiple judicial authorities. The truth was no longer inside the vault. It was everywhere. For the first time in decades, the founder had nowhere to hide. Police officers flooded the underground level. Nobody moved. The security team dropped their weapons. The founder stood perfectly still. An officer stepped forward. You're under arrest. He smiled sadly. I suppose. Every empire ends. The handcuffs clicked around his wrists. The circle was finished. 3 months later, the investigation became international. Hundreds of victims came forward. Frozen bank accounts were recovered. Stolen businesses were returned to their rightful owners. Claire rebuilt the company she had once lost. Evelyn opened an art gallery that finally carried her own name. Dozens of families received justice they had been waiting for years. The world called it one of the biggest financial fraud investigations in history. I simply called it the truth. One afternoon, I received a letter from prison. The sender was Ryan. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Inside, there was only one page. Sophia, you once asked me why I betrayed you. The truth is, I betrayed myself long before I betrayed you. Every wrong choice became easier than the last. until I couldn't recognize the man I had become. You gave me something I never deserved. Real love. I destroyed it, and I will spend the rest of my life living with that truth. Thank you for ending the circle, and for proving that kindness is stronger than fear. Ryan. I folded the letter carefully, then placed it in a drawer, not because I wanted to remember the pain, but because I never wanted to forget the lesson. 1 year later, I stood in front of a new office building. A simple silver sign hung above the entrance. Reborn Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping entrepreneurs who had been victims of fraud, financial abuse, and betrayal. Free legal advice, business mentoring, financial education, a second chance. Because I knew exactly what it felt like to lose everything, and I wanted others to know that losing everything doesn't mean losing yourself. During the opening ceremony, a young woman approached me. She looked nervous. I heard your story. I don't think I can start over. I smiled. A year ago, those words could have been mine. You don't have to become the person you were before. She looked confused. Why? Because sometimes, the strongest version of you is the one that's built after everything falls apart. She smiled through her tears. Thank you. That evening, as I locked the foundation's front door, I looked up at the sunset. For the first time in years, there was no anger in my heart, no desire for revenge, only peace. Ryan once believed my silence meant weakness. He was wrong. My silence gave me time to think. My patience gave me time to prepare. And my calm changed everything. People often ask me if I got revenge. I always give them the same answer. No. I found something better. Justice. Because revenge ends with someone else's pain. But justice begins with your own healing. And that was the greatest victory of all. The end.